On January 26, 1945, 2nd Lieutenant Audie L. Murphy stood at his command post near the village of Holtzwihr in eastern France. Murphy was 19 years old and commanded Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. The company was understrength, tired, and operating in winter conditions during the Allied push to eliminate the Colmar Pocket. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20, 1925, near Kingston, a small rural community in Hunt County, Texas. He was the seventh of 12 children born to Emmett Berry Murphy and Josie Bell Murphy. His parents were sharecroppers, and the family lived in extreme poverty during the Great Depression. The Murphy family worked land owned by others in exchange for a share of crops, and their share was never enough. They lived in a dilapidated house with limited resources and constant hunger. Murphy's father, Emmett, drifted in and out of the family's life and eventually abandoned them completely when Murphy was young. Murphy dropped out of school in 5th grade to help support his family. He got a job picking cotton for $1 a day. He also became skilled with a hunting rifle, hunting rabbits and other small game around their property to help feed his mother and siblings. This skill with firearms developed out of necessity, not recreation. Shooting accurately meant the difference between eating and going hungry. When Murphy's mother died in 1941, he was only 16 years old. He watched as his younger siblings were sent to an orphanage or taken in by relatives. The family was scattered. Murphy's childhood ended completely. After Pearl Harbor, Murphy attempted to enlist in multiple branches of service. The Marines rejected him for being too short. The Navy rejected him for being underweight. The Army also initially rejected him for the same reason. Murphy was determined to serve. In June 1942, with help from his older sister, he falsified documentation about his birth date and convinced recruiters to accept him despite his size. He was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division as an infantry replacement. Murphy deployed to North Africa in 1943 before the Allied invasion of Sicily. The 3rd Infantry Division landed at Licata, Sicily on July 10, 1943, as part of Lieutenant General George S. Patton's 7th Army. Murphy served as a division runner and killed 2 Italian officers on a scouting patrol near Canicattì, his first combat kills. In September 1943, Murphy participated in the landing at Salerno on the Italian mainland. While scouting along the Volturno River, he and 2 soldiers were ambushed by Germans. Machine gun fire killed 1 soldier. Murphy and the survivor killed 5 Germans with grenades and machine gun fire. The division landed at Anzio in January 1944 and remained there 4 months under constant pressure. In August 1944, Murphy's division landed in southern France and fought northward through rain, mud, and winter cold. By January 1945, he had received the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, promotion to 2nd Lieutenant, and command of Company B. The 3rd Infantry Division was part of the Allied effort to eliminate the Colmar Pocket, a German-held salient in southern Alsace that created a bulge along the Rhine front and threatened Allied flanks. The pocket remained a significant tactical problem even after Germany's winter offensives had been absorbed elsewhere. The division had been fighting continuously for more than 5 months, from the beaches of southern France through autumn rains and into the snow and cold of the Vosges Mountains. Units operated below full strength. Men were tired. Winter weather created additional physical strain. But the mission continued: clear towns, hold ground, push forward. Murphy's company defended near Holtzwihr in terrain where woods met open ground. This boundary mattered tactically because it created natural defensive geometry. Defenders could use the cover of trees while forcing attackers to cross more exposed fields. A rifle company in this position typically relied on riflemen covering likely approaches, automatic weapons positioned to cover longer lanes of fire, and anti-armor weapons placed where they could engage tanks early. Communication was critical but fragile. Radio batteries could fail in the cold. Wire lines could be cut by artillery. A working connection to artillery support could determine whether a position held or collapsed. In winter conditions, the woods offered less concealment than in summer because bare branches reduced visual cover. But woods still provided real protection from small arms and artillery fragments, and they still broke lines of sight for enemy observers. The edge of the woods became a natural defensive line where Company B could establish overlapping fields of fire. On January 26, 1945, Company B was attacked by 6 tanks and waves of infantry. This combination created one of the hardest tactical problems an understrength rifle company could face. Tanks and infantry support each other in an attack. Tanks bring protection from small arms and heavy firepower from main guns and mounted machine guns. Infantry protects tanks from close-range threats and clears terrain the tanks cannot safely observe. When coordinated, this type of assault forces defenders to split attention, stop the infantry without letting tanks roll through, and stop the tanks without being overrun by infantry. Against a small, tired company operating in winter conditions, the risk was not only casualties, it was the loss of the defensive line itself, being pushed off the position, losing unit cohesion, and being forced into a withdrawal that could turn into a rout. Murphy ordered his men to withdraw to prepared positions in the woods. This was not panic. It was a tactical decision to reposition to ground that offered better cover and a better chance to hold the line. But a withdrawal under fire requires protection. If defenders simply turn and move, the enemy can accelerate their advance and overrun them. Someone has to stay forward to suppress the attack and buy time. Murphy remained at his command post and continued to direct artillery fire by telephone. Artillery fire is often decisive against massed infantry because it forces attackers to spread out, go prone, and lose momentum. Murphy's artillery directions killed large numbers of advancing German infantry. At that moment, Murphy was using the one tool that could rapidly disrupt an infantry assault: indirect fire. He was buying minutes for his company to reach the woods and reorganize. This was not about individual heroism. It was about using available firepower to change the conditions of the fight and protect his men during their movement to better defensive positions. A U.S. tank destroyer positioned behind Murphy and to his right received a direct hit and began to burn. The crew abandoned the vehicle because burning armor can explode and because it draws concentrated fire. But the tank destroyer had something valuable: a mounted .50 caliber machine gun. Murphy climbed onto the burning tank destroyer and began firing the .50 caliber machine gun at the advancing German infantry. The vehicle was in danger of blowing up at any moment. He was alone and exposed to German fire from 3 sides. From the tactical perspective, this decision makes sense only when understood in context. A heavy machine gun on a stable mount with clear fields of fire into exposed infantry can suppress an assault more effectively than scattered rifle fire. Murphy's position on top of the burning tank destroyer gave him visibility and range that ground-level positions did not have. The elevation allowed him to see over terrain folds and engage enemy infantry as they advanced across open ground. Murphy's fire was effective. It was deadly, killing dozens of Germans and causing their infantry attack to waver. When infantry loses forward momentum under sustained fire, the assault begins to fragment. Men stop advancing, units lose coordination, Leaders lose the ability to push the attack forward. The psychological effect of watching comrades fall creates hesitation and breaks the rhythm of the assault. As the infantry attack wavered, the enemy tanks began to fall back. This follows the logic of combined arms warfare. Tanks operating without close infantry support are more vulnerable to ambush and lose the ability to see threats that infantry would detect. For nearly an hour, Germans tried every available weapon to eliminate Murphy, but he continued to hold his position. An hour of sustained close-range combat is a long time. It meant repeated enemy attempts to close distance, constant incoming fire, and the risk of flanking movement. Murphy wiped out a squad which was trying to creep up unnoticed on his right flank. Germans reached as close as 10 yards before being killed by Murphy's fire. That distance defines the intensity of the action. 10 yards is approximately 30 feet. At that distance, combat is nearly hand-to-hand. This was not distant engagement. This was enemy soldiers closing through winter terrain and being stopped at near-contact range. During this period, Murphy was wounded in the leg. A leg wound reduces mobility, and reduced mobility is dangerous when enemy soldiers are closing distance and when the position is completely exposed. But the wound did not end the action. Murphy remained at the machine gun and continued firing. He stopped only when he ran out of ammunition. Without ammunition, the position could no longer suppress the enemy advance. Murphy then made his way back to his company. He refused medical attention and instead organized his men for a counterattack that drove the Germans from Holtzwihr. A company-level counterattack in this context was not a grand pursuit. It was a controlled push to restore the defensive line, reoccupy key ground, and prevent the enemy from reorganizing for another assault. The success of this action depended on the Germans' earlier losses and the disruption caused by the sustained defense. Murphy's Medal of Honor citation explicitly states that his actions saved his company from possible encirclement and destruction and enabled it to hold the woods that had been the German objective. That is the operational result: unit survival and mission success at a critical moment. Murphy received the Medal of Honor on June 2, 1945, in Salzburg, Austria, at age 19. Lieutenant General A.M. Patch presented the award. When asked after the war why he had seized the machine gun and taken on an entire company of German infantry, Murphy replied, "They were killing my friends." After the war, Murphy became the most decorated American soldier of World War II, with over 30 medals, including the Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and the French Legion of Honor. He was credited with killing 240 enemy soldiers. Murphy later pursued acting and portrayed himself in the 1955 film To Hell and Back, based on his autobiography. The film was a commercial success and remained Universal Pictures' highest-grossing film for nearly 2 decades. With help from actor James Cagney, he starred in more than 40 films over 2 decades. Murphy struggled with what is now recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder. He experienced nightmares, depression, and difficulty sleeping. Arlington National Cemetery records state he could sleep only with a loaded pistol under his pillow. He became one of the first public figures to speak out about the emotional wounds of war and advocated for better treatment and support for returning veterans. Audie Murphy died on May 28, 1971, in a private plane crash near Roanoke, Virginia. He was 46 years old. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His gravesite is the second most visited at Arlington after President Kennedy's. Murphy's story is a case study in small unit leadership under extreme pressure. He commanded an understrength company attacked by armor and infantry in winter conditions. He used artillery to disrupt the assault, mounted a burning vehicle to suppress the attack with a heavy machine gun, and held long enough for his company to withdraw and reorganize. His Medal of Honor citation and the official award show that his actions were considered extraordinary by his commanders and by U.S. military leadership.